Saddle up, partner. We've got a remarkable ride ahead of us. I present to you the Lone Ranger.
The Lone Ranger.
Not just the scourge of outlaws across Texas, but a pioneer behind an entire emerging genre. The Lone Ranger's life may be steeped in mystery, but this classic 1950s series has plenty of secrets and wild stories ripe for the picking. How did an ABC series turn an opera song into a horseback riding anthem? And why was the US Postal Service involved? I'm Nostalgic Nick with Do You Remember, here with all the answers. And if you enjoy this ride, you best give her a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an adventure. But without further ado,
The Lone Ranger. Hail Silver! Away!
tuning in. Before we could even see the Lone Ranger with his wide-brimmed hat and trusty mask, his adventures were first heard on the radio. The Lone Ranger and Tonto premiered with the same title, playing on WXYZ Detroit.
When I hear a train whistle, symbolizes to me the growth of the West.
Credit is given to the station owner George W. Trendle, and of course the show's writer Franz Stryker. Turned out the radio show was a huge hit, but they didn't make the transition to the small screen just yet. First, Stryker penned an entire series of books. The Lone Ranger even got its own comic series, and later on, of course, films. But it was the show, running from 1949 to 57, that put an image to this iconic character and cultural phenomenon. A few faces were behind the Ranger's mask while still on the radio, with the Lone Ranger being voiced by... Wait, it still can't be a mystery, right? Well, Earl Grazer gave life to this crime fighter for over 1,300 episodes. But he wasn't receiving praise during the performance. That's because the creators decided that the Lone Ranger must remain a mystery. So his identity was kept secret from the general public. Apparently one night Grazer was at a nightclub when a prize was offered for the best hi-yo silver shout, most like the Lone Ranger. Naturally, Grazer entered the competition and didn't win? Yikes. Breaking ground. The Lone Ranger as a TV series is generally agreed to be the most recognizable and most popular version of the character. I mean, TV, right? This figure became a cultural icon, but that's not the only way this series shaped TV, because it shaped an entire genre. Before Gunsmoke and Matt Dillon blazed into the saloon, or Zorro cut down the baddies, even before Wagon Train found land to settle in, there was one, the Lone Ranger. Although some credit Hopalong Cassidy being the first Western series in June of '49, it was largely edited from previous films. So when the Lone Ranger rode to town in September of 1949, it was so successful it stayed for most of the 50s. And this show deserves the credit for establishing a long-running Western series. We've got rewinds on many Western shows, and it's all thanks to the one that paved the way for the rest. My cowboy hat's off to you, Mr. Reed. You've got mail. We all have our national heroes, some real, some fictional, that embody the values and feats we wish for ourselves and those around us. And the Lone Ranger has time and again been named such a person. So much so that in 2009, when the US Postal Service put together a commemorative stamp collection honoring early and influential US shows, the Lone Ranger was of course featured. The stamp shows the Lone Ranger as played by Clayton Moore, along with Silver, of course. Also among that collection, Lassie, The Tonight Show, The Twilight Zone, I Love Lucy, and other titans from those years. Who out there grabbed some of those retro stamps for your collection? Let me know in the comments below. Camp Trustworthy. Reed took up the title of the Lone Ranger, but was also a term of enduring friendship, thanks to Tonto and the phrase Kimosabi. Within the franchise lore, Kimosabi is Tonto's name for our masked hero, and comes from a Potawatomi term meaning trusted scout or friend.
Why, you Kimosabi.
In reality, the term is pronounced Gimozabi and means another person looks out for another behind the scenes. Radio show director Jim Jewell got the idea from a boy camp called Camp Kimosabi, just off Mullet Lake at the top of Michigan near the Great Lake Huron. Whistle while you work, if you can. You knew you were in for a wild western adventure when you heard that famous cry of "Hi-yo, Silver, away!" But as empowering and blood-pumping as that call was, it existed because of not being able to do something. The first Lone Ranger for test shoots and early episodes was George Seaton, and when the original script called for the Ranger to whistle for his trusty horse, Seaton couldn't pull off an epic whistle. So as he tells it, he invented that cry to use instead, and it stuck around ever since. On the radio, the sound was an important sound cue, so listeners knew a writing sequence was beginning. But as for the start of each episode, the shouts of "Hi-yo, Silver" have been sampled by the longest tenured original Ranger himself, Earl Grazer, as well as the companionable Fred Foy, famous for his breathless intonation that became so popular to imitate. And Foy is widely known as the greatest announcer-narrator in the history of radio drama.
Return with us now to those thrilling days of yesteryear.
A careful formula. Already a wildly popular radio show, the Lone Ranger TV series also enjoyed immediate popularity. By the 50s, its fame was so apparent, ABC knew it had to make a few accommodations. Typically, it aired on Thursdays and didn't post any reruns. With one exception, for a short while, ABC also aired it late on Fridays, in case you missed that pivotal Thursday slot. Another show must. No matter the situation the Lone Ranger found himself in, he could never stay captured by outlaws or lawmen for long. They had to keep these moments short, so the Ranger would never be unmasked. And what was never hidden was the Lone Ranger's moral code. The Lone Ranger led the fight for law and order across the plains. And to make him as clean a hero as possible, the writers made sure the Ranger never drank or smoked, and only used violence when necessary. This last bit even played into his wardrobe. His origin story changes a bit between radio and TV, but overall the Lone Ranger gets his name by being the lone survivor of a horrible tragedy where he lost his family and co-rangers. His mask is made of fabric from his late brother's shirt, and his vest has silver bullets to remind the Ranger of the silver mine by his childhood home. And in keeping with his code of honor, he uses the expensive metal for his gun to remind himself life is precious and should not be fired upon lightly. Toro. The show may be named for one man, but he comes as half of an inseparable duo. What would the Lone Ranger be without Tonto, whose name is short and catchy but also means stupid or fool in Spanish? So in Spanish dubs they rename him Toro, meaning bull, which is certainly more powerful if you ask me. But among the Michigan Native American language, Tonto is supposed to mean wild one, being very adventurous and inspiring. Tonto was created so the Lone Ranger would have someone to talk to, but it worked out brilliantly. As for Tonto's actor, scriptwriter Fran Stryker insisted on an actual Native American for the TV show. Jay Silverheels was the son of a Mohawk chief living in Ontario's Six Nations reservation. The sport lacrosse traces its origins back to the Indigenous of Canada, and Silverheels himself was a star of the sport before he decided for a total change of scenery and moved to Hollywood. But that athleticism was a good thing. It gave him a leg up as a skilled stuntman. To the opera. You lean back in a plush chair and hear an 1800s overture by Rossini. And surrounded by all this fancy pageantry, you feel ready to ride off into the sunset on your trusty steed. Music tells half the story of any production. It's that final ingredient in getting a scene's flavor just right. So an icon like the Lone Ranger needed a memorable tune to complete his whole aura, appearance, actions, and sound. And throughout the radio program, TV show, and movies, the Lone Ranger's theme has been none other than the William Tell Overture, one of composer Rossini's very last of his 39 operas, and dates all the way back to 1829. And it wonderfully sets the fast-paced mood for the Lone Ranger. But the influence went both ways. There's even a phrase that goes, quote, "An intellectual is one who can listen to the William Tell Overture without thinking of the Lone Ranger." Yeah, that's not happening here.
And it's hi-ho, Silver away into the clubhouse turn. And Schwetty has the lead.
Transcending the mediums. The Lone Ranger is one of those few characters that's appeared in every entertainment medium out there, and not just like The Simpsons making a spoof of it.
And now, Jason's a raccoon.
I'm not a raccoon, I'm the Lone Ranger. I'm too poor to afford the hat.
It started with radio, then moved to TV. We touched on the comic book issues, with the original Dell Comics getting 145 issues. And then there's been updated releases too. Then of course there's the films throughout the decades. And Silver even wrote up in cartoon form, drawing in younger fans as they all crowded around for the weekend fun.
You'll have to get by me first.
And jumped to 1991, and he even got his own video game. The Lone Ranger will never die. But all good things come to an end. Like a meandering survivor after a hard day, the Lone Ranger traced a ragged path through success to the end of the television series itself. It ran for 221 episodes across 5 seasons in 9 years. Briefly, fans had to reconcile with Clayton Moore leaving the show to be replaced by John Hart. The change was not popular and lasted 52 episodes. By the show's 5th year, ownership transferred from the radio show's station owner Trendle to producer Jack Rather, and one of Rather's first moves was bringing Clayton Moore back. And more changes came in 57, like investing money into filming in color. The Lone Ranger may have started as the first of its kind, but by the mid-50s, it wasn't alone by a long shot. It officially had steep competition from Maverick, Gunsmoke, Cheyenne, and many more. Then Rather made the biggest choice of all. He decided not to negotiate with ABC for another season. All this in hopes of turning the Lone Ranger from a small screen hero into a film franchise. So in the place of another 36 episodes throughout the year, we got 1956's Lone Ranger film and 1958's The Lone Ranger in the Lost City of Gold. This was TV at its roots, a powerful formative start to the Western genre as a whole. So what surprised you the most about the first of its kind, The Lone Ranger? Did you or your parents listen to the radio show back in the day? Or was Clayton Moore always your ranger? Did anyone out there enjoy the most recent Johnny Depp Tonto 2013 version?
This is worse.
Sorry to say I couldn't push myself to watch that one, so let me know in the comments if it is worth my time. If you enjoyed this week's episode, be sure to give it a thumbs up for us, and subscribe to the channel so out of the past can come the thundering hoofbeats of simpler times. As always, from all of us here at Do You Remember, thanks for joining us, and let's ride again soon.